louder. This is my virgin tour, everyone. I've never tried this before. So here we go. It's been a year for all of us here, at least in Oakville, Ontario, Canada, that we were declared to be on lockdown, and what a year it has been. I'm sure there are some people who are out there fully vaccinated and running around and hugging and seeing people that they love and not wearing a mask, and perhaps they're popping a champagne bottle. But for me today, I kind of channeled Herman from the cartoon, Jim Unger's cartoon, and I thought, how would he be celebrating today? And this image came to mind. Us celebrating our 1 year today is kind of like going to that 50th wedding anniversary of the couple that stopped talking back in '83. And people stand around with their drink and they jab one another and they say, remind me again what we're celebrating? Patience, stamina, and endurance. And that is exactly what we are celebrating today. So I want to thank you, first of all, for dropping by today on this Virgin Tour, because I've never done this. I have no clue in terms of volume or whatever who's out there. I'm staring at myself. That's about it. But I want you to know that I appreciate that you have played in the social media playground with me in the past year. It was fun to hear your comments. Some of you teased me, some of you mocked me, some of you even questioned my ethics. Some of you said, really, do you not have a filter? Well, the truth is, folks, I don't have a filter. So I want to express my appreciation for you because it's been pleasurable on my end. And as I've commented many times on posts, I needed those posts more than anyone. Well, it doesn't matter what the weather is, where you are, but when we have an opportunity to ride a lazy river, life doesn't get better than that. When I ride on the lazy river, I float. I have the odd wedgie from my bathing suit. Every once in a while, you know, that little nozzle sticks in me and it's irritating, but you float. And as you float, you may bump off the sides occasionally. You may even tip over, but that's what life was like. Life was easy. Life was comfortable. And when I say easy, I mean it was our own rhythm. It was right for us. It was comfortable, it was relaxing, we had sun on our bodies, and life was really good. And many of us didn't fully appreciate that ride along the lazy river. Because what happens is you get into your routine, you get into your rhythm, and you take life for granted. You know, you coast. You don't pay attention to anything. You know that you're suffering some knocks and some tip overs, but you know what? That's life. And we typically just go in the direction we're taken, and other than a few waves, you know, and perhaps we get our hair wet, it's pretty good. And for the most part, when we fall off, we jump back on, or we ask for assistance of someone who's certainly within 6 feet. Could you just help me along here so I can get back on this ride of life? And life is good. But you know, there's always those people that doesn't matter where they are, they could be in the islands on the lazy river and it's 90 degrees, or in our case, 25 Celsius, and the sun's beaming on their body, and they ride that river and they go, you know what, that sun, oh jeez, it's just beating down on my head, and there's too many people in here. Oh, come on, I just had my hair done and it's getting wet. They're gonna bitch and whine and moan and complain. It doesn't matter how idyllic the setting is. There's always those people. The water's too cold and they just want to rant and they spoil everybody else's fun. And then suddenly when we weren't really paying attention last March, it's like someone, and we don't know who it is. We don't know who's responsible, but boy, we're making an effort to find out, are we not? And we don't even know where it came from. I mean, did it come from that lab in North Carolina? They changed the controls on the lazy river? Suddenly, was there some boy back there who turned up the turbulence? But suddenly, our life was no longer riding the lazy river. Suddenly there was turmoil and topsy-turvy, and we flipped, and in some cases we lost our inner tube. Ordinarily we would just hop off, sit on the edge, wait for someone else to toss us another ring, and that would be it. But no, some of us were lacerated by this, and we got some bruises because the turbulence really, really affected us. And many of us have been riding it out for 1 full year. Some just got right back on. They made their own inner tube and they were good to go, and they were just following along. And some just kind of held on for dear life on the side. Others hopped up on the edge and took it all in and just waited for the instructions over the PA system of what we had to do. Well, I want to share with you what my journey's been like in this past year, and I'll try to be concise. But I think it's really important that I be honest with you. When it all started last March and we got word that it was a 2-week lockdown, the team player, cheerleader oozed out of me. Now, you see, I was always a little chunky to be an actual cheerleader, but I was the one that carried their thermoses into the stadium with the alcohol. So, I mean, I was always a part of it. But I've always loved and appreciated being part of a team. And when that happened last year, I thought, globally, I'm now on a team. What can I do to make sure that collectively I'm contributing to the buoyancy of others? And I decided what I would do. You know, some people were doing masks, and some people were cooking, and some people were helping out their neighbors, and other people were posting recycled motivational quotes, and some people quoted the Bible. And I thought, I'm the motivator. I got to keep people's spirits up, and heaven forbid I have to keep my own spirits up. And besides, Trump, I remember that press conference when he looked like this and said, we should be good by Monday, right? Well, 2 weeks it was all going to be over, and it was like 2 weeks of snow days. This is going to be fun. And I started, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I took part in an online course, and it was the science of well-being, or the science of happiness. And when I went through the questionnaire to assess how happy I was, other than some concrete variables that cannot be altered, I was pretty good. So I was kind of coasting. And yeah, you know, I was checking the numbers, and I was venting, and I was talking with friends. And then an interesting thing happened. I suddenly realized that I was in the process of peeling back what I refer to as the COVID onion. And the first layer was questioning whether or not I would ever work again as a professional speaker. And you know yourself, when it's time to move on or retire or to leave a relationship, you want to be in control of that. And you want to know, I'm ready for this. I'm prepared for the next stage. I can do this. Well, suddenly I realized that this could be out of my control. And when you are on the cusp of perhaps giving up your career, it creates some angst. And as I was dealing with that, and the loss of the lifestyle as I knew it, and the loss of social interaction with others, I was overcome with the feeling of, geez, this feels an awful lot like grieving. And having been part of the grieving process for a number of years, and let me tell you this, it doesn't matter who you are, everyone out there is grieving something. And it doesn't necessarily pertain to the loss of a loved one. grieving something, and I was overcome with these feelings. And then what I decided to do, now what I'm going to do is I give you my issues, I'm going to interject with what I ultimately did to bring myself back. It didn't happen that way. So the first red flag was I was grieving. I was grieving career. I was suddenly really missing my husband because I had no one to vent with about those numbers. I was grieving not being with my friends. You know, you too were grieving. And what I decided later as a coping strategy was the mask I should be wearing is the one that I relied on in the grieving process, and that is grow or woe. I have a tattoo that says sempre avanti, and it has saved me in the past 3 years of grieving, and it means always forward. And I realized if I was going to get stuck lamenting my career and everything else, life was not going to be pretty for me. That I was just going to spiral down into a bed of woe. Well, around the same time, Kojiko, who is our local TV provider, gave me, I didn't ask for it, a free subscription to CNN. Well, because I had so much time on my hands and I was spending most of it in what I call the South Wing, which is my bedroom in my crowded bungalow, it was background noise. And every 5 minutes, this just in, breaking news, you know, and not that I was watching, but I was certainly listening. And the politics, the U.S. politics in particular, and whether you are a Trump fan or not, you got to admit there was an awful lot of noise. An awful lot of bitching, whining, moaning, crying, complaining, ranting. Well, you know what tends to happen in that case? All day long, that's what you're sucking back. You go from there to the podium visits with the Canadian politicians. You go from there to checking out the numbers on worldometer.com. And it's one thing after another. And that was another red flag. There was way too much negativity going on in my world, and I didn't even realize it. And this part is brought to you by the letter B, because what happens to us in that case with me is, first of all, I was wallowing in my grief. I was wallowing in all of my losses, and then I was inundated with negativity coming at me from the TV, the newspapers, social media, whatever. You add into the mix George Floyd, you add into the mix Black Lives Matter, and it was like, oh my goodness. Well, here is a hot tip for you. All day long, we are sucking back air. We are taking breaths in and we are inhaling whatever is going on around us in our environment. And unbeknownst to us, when our head hits the pillow that night, if we do have the opportunity to sleep, those little toxins are kind of working back here. And before you know it, they are formulating a few ideas, a few opinions, a few things for you to go on. Well, you know what? You breathe it, you make it believable, you behave it, and once you behave it often enough, you become that source of negativity. And once you become it, you breed it. And sometimes you have someone who shares your life with you and they go, hey, honey, knock it off. You're turning into a negaholic. Or you have a good friend that looks at you and winces and says, are you okay? As you vent ad nauseum. Well, what we have to do is we have to alter what it is we are ingesting, intaking. The first thing I did is I canceled CNN and I stopped reading the newspapers. And I tried to create an environment to boost my spirits, because apparently it will. And so we have a part to play in that. We can continue and go out there and approach life like this through a negative lens, or we can very, very easily alter it and say there's got to be some good out here somewhere. Where it is, when it's going to appear, I have no idea, but I'm going to be ready for it. And it's not a matter of toxic positivity. It's about a frame of mind and an approach to life. And then what I did midway through June is I made the decision that I've played in the playground long enough of social media. I've posted 100 days in a row, something positive, something uplifting, maybe entertaining, creative, and absolutely original. And I thought, they're going to get sick of me. It's like the person that keeps showing up at the playground. You here again? Don't you have a life? And I decided, you know what? Time's up. I'm going to take a breather because I don't want them to get tired of me. Another red flag. Why? Because I gave up my why. I gave up my reason to get up in the morning. I had a little job. I gave it up. I gave up my focus. I no longer had to go out in the world and look for something humorous or think of something creative. I gave it up. I gave it up. No one took it away from me. So here is the strategy. Reclaim your why. What is it that is your focus? What is it that is your passion? What is it that gives you reason to get out of bed other than going for a pee? And being part of every day. And how can you contribute globally? You got to figure out your why. And that, geez, I wish my people would have brought me some water, but they didn't. So then I decided, you know what, as I'm feeling as though I'm dropping lower and lower and I'm peeling back more layers of the onion. And again, I didn't think of it at the time. This was in my recovery stage. I recognized, get out of your own head. It's not all about you. Everybody out there's got shit, not just you. All sorts of people are living on their own, not just you. And I decided in order for me to embrace my new reality, I had to slowly remove the blinders through which I was viewing and experiencing my world. And the first thing you recognize when you remove the blinders and you take a really good look around with a head swivel, there's always someone worse off than you. You've heard people say that we're all in this together. We're all in different vessels. Some are traveling in yachts and some are swimming for their life on a piece of cardboard. It's true. And it's not until we do the head swivel that we say, come on, honey, give your head a shake. You're sitting here, you got a house, you got a property, you've got friends, you've got an active brain. Think of the young single mom with 3 kids living on the 18th floor of a crowded high-rise, and finances are an issue. And sometimes that's all we have to do is look around and recognize, I got it made. Now, in removing the blinders, I like to execute the 360. The 360 is you look side to side to see where you fit in, to see where maybe you could help out. You look back for the lessons that you learned from the past that are going to help you as you look forward and focus on what it is you want in your future, regardless of how uncertain it may appear right now. We look down for humility. Some of us look down, we can't see our feet. Some of us look down, that's all we could see, are these size 11 sticking out to here. We look up to give thanks to whoever or whatever it is that you believe in. But you got to get out of yourself. You got to recognize you are not alone in this. And as part of that, my red flag, my part of that was you have to be prepared to be grateful, to know what you have to say thank you for. Because I talk to some people and I want to say to them, give your flippin' head a shake. Look at what you have. But often what we do in going through turbulent times and getting dunked in and ingesting water and almost drowning is we can't see beyond ourselves. Well, you know what? Get out of your own head and recognize what you have. And in the same vein, when you do that and you focus on the positive, then it's a matter of concentrating on what you can do rather than what you can't do. So much of us in conversation, we say, nyeh, nyeh, nyeh. Geez, I can't do this anymore. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. I can't see my family. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. Stop. It's as easy as flipping your head right around and saying, you're right. I can't do that. I can't go out and visit my friends. But by putting some curtains up on my porch, which is at least 8 feet wide, I could invite them over for a porch visit. This is when it requires you to be lucid and creative and resourceful and say, what can I do? It took me 41 years of living in Oakville to recognize that I have as much access to Walking Lake, Ontario as anybody else. I've been paying taxes for it for 41 years. But oh no, I had my head down thinking, I can't play tennis. Flip it around. What can you do? And along the same vein, when you get outside your own head, I made up this word. Yes, sometimes I do that, and maybe it makes no sense to anyone. But the word I made up is glive. And in a nutshell, it means give while you live, make giving a part of your living. Because everyone out there who extends their hand, extends their head, extends their heart, writes a check, you know that when you are of service to others, when you offer that hand and help out and contribute and be a part of, there are more inherent benefits than the act of doing it. We walk away thinking, oh my goodness, that felt so good. And too many people get locked up in their own world. And when I say to them, are you involved in anything? Well, I think back in 2005, I gave a donation to the heart, that whatever the heart thing is. And it's a difficult conversation to have because you don't want to look at them and say, that's not enough. That's not enough. I believe that if every person just did one thing, could you imagine how better off our social circle would be, our neighborhood would be, our community would be, on and on and on. You see, I believe life is inside out, that it all starts right here. And if each one of us extends and gives and offers and is a part of in one small way collectively. You know, the theme of International Women's Day was something about, was it control or change, whatever. But the idea is, you know, yeah, everybody wants to change the world, but they don't want to stop and change this person right here. And that's where it begins. You can't give out when you're empty. And moving along, we have to recognize if you were swimming aimlessly in the water trying to stay afloat, some of you, you know, you might get you might get dizzy, or you don't like water, and some of you wear the patch when you go on the cruises. And ultimately, the patch is for, what do you need to help you with the stress in your life? And my red flag was I wasn't paying attention to what my needs were. And as I was going through that recovery stage, I actually made a list and realized what I need. I need to be physically active. I need to be outside. I need social contact regardless of the forum, the avenue that I choose to do it, the exercise, the sunshine. I needed to meditate. I needed to remind myself every day how thankful I am and how lucky I am, and I needed a focus. But that required sitting back for some self-reflection, because there are a lot of people out there, not only are they running on empty, everything is, well, you got to give until it hurts, you got to give until it hurts, everything is out here. Stop. There is not a plot for you in Midland. That is for martyrs. And you wear yourself down and you empty yourself out and you got nothing. People don't necessarily come running because we are self-centered individuals, and we go, yeah, we got to give her some time. I don't know what's going on with her, but she's got nothing. We got to take care of us. And on the idea of what we need, if you can't come up with anything, like what was happening to me as I was spiraling deeper and deeper into that turbulent water, into a feeling that I had never experienced before, and I looked at it as, I'm in a slump. I'm in a slump. I have woe on my heart. I have heaviness. I was functional. I was getting up every day. I was doing all these different things. I didn't have any zip. I didn't have any zing, zest for life. I was just going through, I was treading water. That's what I was doing. And I thought, no, this is not working for me. But if you get into that place and you can't even think of how to combat the stress or the tension in your life, what I suggest you do, as this word, where'd my little, just breathe. I learned a valuable lesson from my Nona many, many years ago. She would walk through the house. She carried about 275 pounds. And every 5 seconds we'd hear, and as little kids, we'd say, Nona, what's going on? This is funny. We've never heard sounds like that. Because you laugh at things you don't understand. And Nona would respond like this. It feels good. You stand around all day, or you cook, or you clean, or you talk to people, you listen to people's problems. You take it in all day, and you don't let it go. It comes out in other places. And as she was exhaling later in life, I realized not only was she proficient in dealing with stress way back in her day with grade 1 education and not knowing how to read or write, but basically what Nona was trying to say is, your body's like a balloon. Oh, you take it in all day, you help this person. You've been feeling all in lately, but you don't want a doctor's appointment on the telephone. Your son called. Things haven't been good for them during COVID. The relationship is on the rocks. The grandchildren FaceTime you. Oh, you miss them so much. You just want to reach out and touch them. Your friend's going through a rough time. Recently losing a spouse. That's very difficult, and you feel all that pain. Well, I can keep going on and on with some typical daily stressors that you and I might feel and experience. But what Nona was trying to say is when you feel the tension, you gotta breathe deep and you gotta let it go. Because like this balloon, if we go through life and we don't have an outlet, this balloon is going to pop. And even though we don't like the sound of this, especially when it's on our face and it's wet, so you don't want to do that with COVID. Just breathe deep and let it go. And we have to make the decision. In the words of the motivator, keep yourself motivated. Come up with a plan. Figure out, what do I need to survive this? Our future is uncertain. We can't have grandiose ideas. We have no clue. Many of us want to blame somebody. We want to point the finger, and that's so frustrating. Keep yourself motivated. Keep yourself buoyant. And if nothing else, we must look around and determine, I need a new inner tube. And this one is in the shape of a hug. And as we continue to go through life and ride the lazy river with the new turbulence, if nothing else, you know, wherever you go, there you are. And that is a comforting thought, especially if the little voice talking in your, what ear is that? My right ear, is one that is loving and encouraging and supportive. To remain buoyant requires that best friend with our self-love, our self-care, and our self-nurturing. It really is up to us. And just yesterday, as I was out for a walk along our beautiful Lake Ontario, I passed one of those benches with a plaque. And this is the perfect finish for today's session. The tragedy of life is not death, but what we let die inside us while we are alive. Decide to be happy. Love passionately. Sit and ponder. Reflect. Don't rush. Appreciate your unique journey. Correct the course if needed. We are all in that position of correcting our course. Learn how to swim. Learn how to stay buoyant. Use those skills to ride the turbulence. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. That's it. That's it. I got no more.